Good afternoon. Okay, this is the English class at EIE, College Prep English for Homeschoolers on March 31st, and we are going. I'm going to share the screen, and the screen doesn't seem to be shareable at this point. Why is that?
Did you go to the settings to share it?
I think you just can't share it when it's.
You can't share it when you've already started it. Yeah. Anyway, I believe we are up and going. Got a number of things, of course, all sort of handed in at the last minute.
Sorry about that. I've been sick the past.
Well, it always happens that way, and I don't want to ignore them because I know that you've spent so much energy putting these things together. You don't want to wait a week before you see anything on them. I was hoping that we'd have people who've handed things in and whose papers are waiting to be handled. Okay. Let's look at our agenda. Oh, we've got all kinds of other things here. Here's our agenda. Now, I've got a lot of tools that I have put up here for you that I think I found just absolutely wonderful to discover. I've already given you a database of scholarly journals, open access scholarly journals, and I'm sure you've gone through those and read hundreds of them. However, a lot of journals are behind a paywall, as they call it. Mm-hmm. It dates from the time that everything was done. There was an organization that took on the responsibility of making these things available, printing them and distributing them. And I won't say exacting sometimes exorbitant fees for doing so. But now that they're distributable electronically, no parasitic entity in that position. And yet, of course, that parasitic entity doesn't want that flow of income to disappear. They're charging generally $30 for a paper. And these papers can be between, 8 pages long and 20 pages long. That's an awful lot for a few pages. Mm-hmm. But they've established that, and they are legally apparently entitled to it. A number of people at various different times have decided this is a bad way to go. And as an institution, many institutions subscribe and have unlimited access. And so there are those who have gone through institutions and downloaded their entire database and put it out on the net. In the past, that has been, there are several interesting historical examples of that, but the most recent one here, Sci-Hub, is being hosted in St. Petersburg and appears actually on the dark web, and there seems to be no way to shut it down. And so as far as the accessibility to the educational world, this is a wonderful boon to take place. It's over 47 million academic papers. Wow. And searchable by the keywords that are provided by the authors of the papers. And of course, we've looked at a few papers, I think, in the past. In general, they tend to be deadly dull because there's no effort put into them to make them fascinating, of course. They have to touch certain bases. They have to go through the existing literature and then expand upon it. But this is a wonderful source. Now, I did send this out on Monday in my assignment update. Did you all get an opportunity to play with this tool and do a little experimentation?
Partially, but I'd like to look at it more.
Yeah.
I was kind of confused as to how exactly it works. So you just put in like
I
a
don't know
keyword.
how to.
You put in a keyword or
Yeah.
keywords, and that can also be an author. It could also be
Okay.
a title.
And where do you obtain these keywords? Say if you want to find a specific essay or whatnot.
Well, if you are writing on a specific subject, you're going to know the keywords in that subject area.
Mhm.
And so that, of course, is what you would be searching by. And then typically in the past, these would be available abstract only, in that they always start with an abstract, which is a summary of what it's going to do, what the paper is going to cover. And then based on that, you decide whether or not to buy the paper itself, buy access to the paper itself. But in this case, the paper itself is completely available.
Mhm.
And so that just really opens up the world to scientific study and research. Okay, so Sci-Hub, I haven't done a great deal with this one. It's slow. I'm not sure exactly where the bottleneck is in that process, but when you put in a term or multiple terms, it takes a while before the thing comes back, maybe a minute. And
There's just so much material and content that's probably the result of
exactly, so massive.
yeah.
And it's probably not running on some great fast machine. Anyway, it's a wonderful discovery, and I hope you get a chance to play around with that. And if you read enough of these papers, you'll get an understanding of what writing an academic paper is all about. Okay, I also wanted to look at lexile level analysis tools. Did you get a chance to play with those at all?
I got redirected a couple of times, and I don't know where to go from there.
Okay, maybe I got my links in wrong or something, but I would like to look at those. There are problems with them, multiple problems, and I wanted to discuss that and get your feedback on it and see what you think. Also, we really didn't get to our page on war poetry, though we've had it up there for several weeks. I thought it would be nice to do that. And we have a number of topics, some of which I've removed, that we've discussed to some extent. But these are discussion topics which would be nice to cover to some extent. All right. You've read all of this, I assume. I don't know what's going on with this. My mouse.
No. Just do a basic left click, and
right.
Fix it. Sometimes it gets stuck on scroll.
Yeah. I've seen it happen before. I'm not sure why it's intended to do that, but it does. Okay, and I'm sure you've read all about this. I still would like to go through it so that you understand the scholarly scientific paper has traditionally been available only to institutions that can pay for access to proprietary databases, even though the content has been produced through public funding. This has prompted activists to create alternative free databases. One recent example, and this is one that's still accessible, is the Sci-Hub, where 47 million previously unavailable papers have been posted. I did search for autonomous unmanned aerial vehicle, which I thought was fairly specific and got some amazing things.
Wow.
There are papers in there on swarms of micro UAVs working in combination, in coordination with each other. It's absolutely, and I've seen pictures of those. I don't know if you have or not, but can you imagine making hundreds of these little
swarm of little
little robots, flying robots. Okay, the reading analysis tools. I want to take us through something here, but I came across this in the public schools right now. One of the big catchwords is lexile levels, which is the presumed level that a document or a paper is written at such that it would be readable from some specific age. We could say this is a lexile level, 4th grade or 7th grade or something like that. And in fact, I came across a paper. I'm not sure whether I came across this paper first and got to it afterwards or afterwards, but indeed in our assignment here is a paper I'd like you to read. If you think Donald Trump sounds like a 4th grader, it's because he does. And this is I think the paper itself is very well written. I think what we ought to do is take that paper and run it through and see what its lexile level is.
I'd love to.
So let's do that.
Yeah, now things are getting really tense between Trump and Cruz, and Donald Trump, he's just not good at debating or just public speaking in general. That's not a strength.
He only scratches the surface, really. He doesn't examine like complexity
all of
within.
Yeah, all
He
of
just seems to
all
kind
our
of say
candidates.
things.
Yeah.
Oh,
Open-mindedly without.
They just blurt things
Yeah.
out and then they have to go back.
well,
delete
it
it
doesn't.
or-
It doesn't blurt things out. He's been
If we're gonna
saying
talk
pretty
about
much
blurting out, let's talk about
consistent. Consistent. He's been very
All
consistent with what he's been
All our
saying.
presidents are a little whack.
Everybody's whack
Oh, no.
now.
This lineup.
Nobody's
this
straight.
Okay.
You're just in the corner.
I'm just trying to get
Random
people to speak.
discussion
This is
moment.
wonderful.
I also have to ask Rush Limbaugh this Friday. I'm gonna call him up, see if he answers my call, and ask him because Donald Trump keeps calling Ted Cruz lying Ted for stealing voters from Ben Carson, and I'm wondering, how should I approach this as a young person?
Wait, Rush Limbaugh?
Not
Yeah.
sure I
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, Rush. Never mind. But yeah,
Okay, it's interesting and it's important to listen to these people. Notice the immense gap between the lexile level of those you're hearing among the American candidates and the speakers I've been assigning to you.
big
I-
level.
That it's a significant difference, but
Yeah.
which one is going to get elected? That's one of the interesting questions.
That is because that's all that really matters in the end.
Yeah.
Which is
Who's going to be elected? That's all that really matters in the end.
right, but
Yeah.
one of the questions is what level of speech is appropriate, which is most effective, which is
Mhm.
most cogent. Not that any of them would use that word; it's the appropriate word.
Mhm.
Cogent, that which appeals to the intellect, because they're not really appealing
Yeah.
to the intellect, are they?
Not at all.
Probably something that just gets the American people where they don't really have to think real hard and not hurt their
That sounds so
noggins
American.
for-
They don't really have to
Yeah.
think real hard.
You don't have to hurt
I'll
their
just
little
vote for the
noggles.
easiest guy to understand.
Exactly. Why?
Because
I don't know.
most Americans
they're-
are poorly educated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sure sounds like it to me.
Yeah.
I mean, we have created a populace to whom that approach really tends to appeal. They're lacking analysis skills. They don't think it through and really consider what the issues are, nor whether the speaker is in command of the issues, him or herself, but respond emotionally to what they've been given. And if we look at the way schools are put together and have been functioning for the last number of decades, it's no wonder that that's the kind of populace we have. One wonders whether that's the kind of populace that even is consistent with the concept of democracy. Because in order to have democracy ruled by the people, you have to have people who think and
Educated
people who know things.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why the founders wanted only land-owning people to.
Well, traditionally, of course, that's the way it was throughout Europe. It was the gentry, it was the aristocracy who made the decisions, and they were the ones who were educated too. Though oddly, in so many areas, the common people were often highly educated. If you
Yeah.
look at the audience that would go to see Shakespeare plays, I mean, this appealed to the common person. And if you look at it, even though we realize, of course, the language used is not the language of today, but still that language was extensive. It was colorful. It was beautiful. It was so much more than, dare I say it, the pidgin English of common American parlance today. And so you can't help thinking that although we may have more people who are literate in the sense that they can read fourth grade reading material, they really aren't literate at all in comparison to previous ages.
I think it's because back then education was more of a privilege, and nowadays people think of it as a burden, and nobody really wants to do it, and people just want to get over it.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
Is it a burden? Do you feel this is burdensome?
No, but I would feel public school would be burdensome.
I mean, I tend
Just
to
a
think
constant busy work, and it's just get one done, turn it in, get another done, turn it in. So I could see why a lot of people just stop trying to learn after they finish their required
minimum
curriculum.
what is the answer to that?
make everything more interesting,
Yeah,
more appealing
How
to
does
the
one do
to the
that?
youth.
that's the hard part.
Yeah, it's very hard to do in a class of 30 people.
Mhm.
It's much easier in our little class here, but still, there must be ways to do it. I think one of the ways to do it is to have everyone both learning and teaching at the same time,
Sure.
and passing things on and discussing and researching. And anyway, that's one approach. But we really have a dismal state out there, and these poor kids have to go through so much onerous busy work that they come out just detesting everything. Okay, please read this. It's actually nicely written. Let's grab the whole thing here and see what its lexile level is. The word lexile level still bothers me.
I'm guessing it'll be 7th grade. No,
I'm sorry?
8th grade. 8th grade.
Okay.
When I read it, I guess I'm around 8th grade or so.
It could be 9th. I'm not sure.
Let's give it a try and see. I just
Possibly
read it
10.
and noticed that the writer really was able to wield the language.
Yeah, I did. I noticed that as well.
Yeah, maybe.
I just said 8th
12th
grade for the
grade?
probability of this specific
10th grade.
engine. Huh.
10th grade, age 15. There are various other scores here. They're all doing the same thing, however.
Yeah.
It's a question of how long the words are and how long the sentences are,
Mhm.
which is a very poor measure
It
of
is.
how difficult
Yeah.
it is to read.
That's really basic.
It's a very simple one to apply, however. Now,
So if we
I
put a
think
bunch
I'll
of
have
run-on
to.
sentences, would that raise the grade level?
Yeah,
Because the
just
sentences are longer,
yeah.
even though they're not technically correct.
Oh, that's a good point.
What if they're all
That's-
run-on sentences?
Right. You
There we go.
just take out all the periods and put commas in instead.
And then you'll raise yourself to a college graduate.
Right. Well, let me give you an example, because I was inspired with this to do a little bit of experimentation, which Brian has seen already. Someone came in and asked about it, but all right, where is it? No. Where did I put it? Well, that's no problem. I will
Wait,
simply open it up again. Where's our
6.
agenda here?
5S.
you have a
Was it possible that I put it in there?
That I might.
Yes, I think so.
So glitchy software. Also, FaceTime now. That's one thing Android can never really grasp the concept.
Okay, here we are. I didn't like this concept particularly well because I felt that it was too simplistic and really
Yeah.
didn't demonstrate the real lexile levels. I'm
It's kind of funny.
consistently berated here for using language of too many syllables. The number of syllables doesn't matter. And I wrote a couple of little passages to demonstrate this fact. The first one, this one scores at the level of grade 19, which would be third year graduate school, age 24. And let's just look at it. Elderly curmudgeon Aloysius was determined to do gardening to irritate his neighbors. Watermelons were preferable to asparagus in marmalade, but avocados, potatoes, and rosemary appealed to his rascally sensibilities. The rapscallion continued catapulting increasingly offensive vegetables in improbable quantities. Not a word in there anybody has any trouble with, right?
Right.
I could have used the word potatoes a few more times, or tomatoes. Basically, it's largely 3 and 4 syllable words. And it scored, as you see. The next one here, this one scores on the Flesch-Kincaid grade level, it scores grade 4, not even grade 4.1, and it actually gives you those. So this is Donald Trump level English.
That's steep to his level, real quick.
Which you'll read the paper and understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just look at it here. Then sang a paean at the fate to appease the vile abbot. 'Twas he who would oft rive those late to come and cavil over motes. Thinking it his ambit, he would balk at any slight canard. He'd swinge with furor and virid bile those who might scaff, denying them the least tranche or viand for their pains. The hapless sprog so smitten would oft pule. All right. Took a little while to put that together, but it's easy enough to write something. Obscure words don't have to be long.
Mhm.
You see what I mean?
Mhm.
And as long as that kind of a test does not pay any attention at all to word obscurity,
Mhm.
and instead looks at word length. I mean, the word watermelon is a perfectly understandable word to everybody, and the fact that it is 3 syllables really doesn't make it at all difficult. So this scored age 9, grade level 4. So I thought you might appreciate that. You can keep those little.
I wonder what the actual grade would be, though.
Yeah, that
That
test
sounds a
is
lot more
inaccurate.
close to
It would be.
grade 19.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
And
I think a
indeed,
fourth grader could even understand
if we
Yeah.
take some of these words and look them up and try to find out, well, let's take the word swinge, for example, here. And I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to put it into this other tool that I have also given you here, wherever it is. I think it's over here. There we are. This is the Google Ngram Viewer, which is a really interesting thing.
It's really cool.
I'm going to back up so that I have the page where I can stick it in. Where is it? Here it is. You stick it right in there. Okay. Now, what it does, in case insensitive, I don't care if it's capitalized or not, and it searches the Google library, and Google has largely illegally collected a library of largely copyrighted material. But let's just go ahead and take a look at it. Interesting. Okay. Notice here that it had a much higher usage back in the 1800s that it does now. And I find, I would like to find statistics on how many words were much more commonly used in the past than are used now. Because I have a feeling, and I have been looking around and have had difficulty trying to find something, maybe I could find it in this new database, that will clearly explain how many words are really in common parlance currently. I think we'll find that we're limited to some, maybe 700 words define what is readable to the modern high school graduate. And yet in the past, the vocabulary has simply been so much more extensive. Now, this Ngram viewer will allow you to put in multiple words. In this case, it just used the capitalized version and the lowercase version. But you can put in multiple words and see those charts compared with each other over a period of years. This goes between 1800 to 2000. I'm tempted to say, let's go 1500 and see what we get there. I don't know that swinge will necessarily help us very much. Okay, that's very interesting that we see a bit of it right around 1600 and nothing much until the beginning of 1700. But swinging was apparently extremely popular in the late 16th century. It means to beat, but in that sentence that it's used metaphorically, to beat someone with frigid green bile, literally. Okay. So we can take the words that we'd like to look at and consider. Notice that it has almost no usage in modern world at all, but quite a significant amount, or at least a significant amount more, back in the 16th century. This, of course, is Shakespeare's period. From I'm not sure how, 1578. That's a little too early. So it was in common usage before his major efforts and goes through. We'll probably find it in Shakespeare. Okay. So you have some tools here to play around with. I've added some other things to class, and I'd like to just go through those, and then we'll hit the assignments. We've done the reading analysis tools. One of the points I want to make is that it's a very simplistic and egregiously flawed measure of readability. Try running them on prose you have been studying, on your own writing, on our text and other textbooks to determine what grade level student would understand them. Whereas the goal of many of these sites is to reduce the lexile level to that which any 7th grader would understand. Remember that our goal is to impress favorably an admissions officer or a seasoned academic. So this isn't, we are not adopting the same goal that the
website wants.
The websites are aimed at.
Yeah.
One of them actually had a little article by a person who had just published a technical textbook on biology, but had managed to do it all at 7th grade reading level. And I'd look at that and I'd scratch my head and say, you're doing such a disservice to all those poor 7th graders. Let them have a look at some real language. They'll never rise to that level unless they see it. And this, I'm afraid, is just so popular right now, is let's dumb it down. It's commercially viable. If you write something for 4th graders, indeed, your understanding audience is going to be larger than it is if you raise the bar a little bit. But the question is, what should we do to raise the level of reading in society in general? We're certainly not going to do it by dumbing down everything we show them.
It's true.
My thoughts anyway. You're welcome to come up with alternatives. I have gone over this and argued it. As people tell me that if I'm promoting my classes, I'm going to have to reduce my language down so everyone understands it. Okay,
It's not the case.
is that what this class is supposed to be?
No,
I think it's a matter of just
that's
making
counter-
everything more interesting and enticing to all people, really, and just making learning and just education as a whole something that people strive for. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you entirely. It's harder than it sounds, though, because
No, yeah, it
you
really is.
can't put a formula together to do it. If there were
What's
formulae-
enticing for one may be very bad for another.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So it's hard to please everybody.
It's very hard indeed. Okay, Martin suggested this the other day, and in fact he suggested it because this troupe is going to be performing here in Southern California shortly. If anybody's interested, the Reduced Shakespeare Company, the complete works of Shakespeare abridged. They have performed, and a number of their performances are available on
They're
YouTube.
hilarious.
Go ahead and watch them. I've watched them before. I didn't watch it recently,
Mhm.
but it's very clever.
It's fun.
And put your thoughts into whether we want to do another one of the Shakespeare plays, or indeed anything else. Okay, some of this material has been here for a while already. This short video by Berlinski, in which he critiques Darwinian orthodoxy. Forget about the content. The content's not important, although it's very interesting.
It is. I liked it.
But his language
It's
is just
just
absolutely
superb. It's
superb. So listen to Berlinski, one of the few Americans who can speak. Although English was actually a second language. He was born in this country, but his parents spoke German.
Oh.
And yet he's teaching it at the Sorbonne in Paris. Okay, this is an interview of Peter Hitchens. And what I found interesting about it is that the interviewer actually describes himself as a writer and speaker. And yet his speech, certainly, his language in general, is egregiously dismal. And so my challenge to you here is,
Interviewer?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, the interview it was. Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the interviewer, but listen to
Yeah,
it. You'll be
glasses.
able to look it up. It's possible it's not even there. But try to find a single well-crafted, cogent sentence by the interviewer, or a single sentence by Hitchens that is less than flawless. It's really such a contrast when you
listen to him speak, and then in contrast to him to Hitchens.
Right, and for some reason, it's this kind of interviewer that so often interrupts the interviewee, and then hems and haws and burbles and butters, and it's terribly frustrating when you've got an interviewee who really knows how to speak. And he does a nice job. He's not quite his brother, and they didn't agree on much of anything, but he does put it together beautifully. And one of the parts that I found interesting was one striking aspect of this discussion is the lack of contrition and embarrassment the interviewer seems to show for his imbecilic maunderings. In other words, he recognizes the mastery of his interviewee, but he doesn't seem to realize how poor he is himself. Okay, Terry Eagleton never says anything that's with which one can take any issue at all as far as its syntax and its it's just fascinating what he does. Okay, and one of the questions I asked you up above in the discussion questions was, what is Ditchkins? Anybody remember?
Oh, Dawkins and Hitchkins. Or
Very good,
Hitchens,
very
yeah.
good. He
Yeah, the two together.
puts the two of them together. Okay, and then we're down to the sorines here, which we can do if and when we feel like it. But let's make sure we've got everything else here. Brian tells me that this link doesn't work. In any case, just look in the main part of our classroom for Einstein or religion and
Yeah, because it
science,
just redirected me to the war stories.
Yeah.
which simply means I put in the wrong.
Yeah, the wrong URL.
Okay, and we've finished that.
Mhm.
Any questions at all about the assignments? Do you need more
For next week.
for next week?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we need
I
some
mean, yeah,
for
new
next week.
material, obviously, but
Okay. There are a couple of other things I would like to give you for next week. Let's
Okay.
go over here. I put them in
Oh, you're gonna add the Arizona University?
this Arizona University
Oh.
one that I mentioned before. Again, this doesn't give you a balanced debate, doesn't have people on both sides of the issue, but it has some absolute superb speakers. If anybody wants to find something on the other side of this issue and bring it in, perfectly welcome to do so. Make sure that its speakers can speak. But Chomsky, of course, is one of the great academics, the father of modern linguistics, MIT professor for years, and now what do I call it? Emeritus professor. Greenwald is an ex constitutional attorney. And Snowden, you've probably heard of, is a high school dropout.
And
What's that?
and a former CIA agent.
Yes, yes. You'd have to say he learned outside of school.
Yes. And a wanted felon.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
He's a lot
it's
of
the
things.
irony in FBI and Wanted. It's just kind of
Yeah, yeah.
Right. But I'm not going to, I don't want to be concerned about the content. What struck me is absolutely amazing oratory
I know.
on the part of all three of these and the interviewer, who really did a fine job as well. Listen to every word spoken. It's just superbly done. None of it scripted. It's clear to me, however, that the interviewees knew what the interview questions were going to be. They had their thoughts together, and Snowden really surprised. Absolutely superb speaker. He did an amazing job. So let me add that to our assignments, if that's all right with you.
yeah. I'd love
If
to.
you have objections to the content or something, that's fine.
I'm offended.
Well, that's the thing.
Snowden's in there. I'm offended. We should have this class shut down.
Well, this is the question. If you'd like to bring in the other side of the issue, either in presentation by someone or make a presentation yourself, that might be a very interesting debate.
Mhm.
So let's consider that. It's just that I don't have the other
Conversation
side of this issue covered.
on privacy, huh?
Well, this is specifically a discussion of privacy, which I feel in a way misses the point. Privacy is important, but when we look at democracy, there are a number of aspects of democracy that we assume to be absolutely essential. For example, the freedom to speak, freedom to vote without someone looking over your shoulder in the voting booth, freedom to, for example, in a court case, to confer privately with one's attorney. That's demanded by law, but it absolutely vanishes if you take into account the all-pervasive scrutiny that that we're all subject to with surveillance as it exists. And so much of the, so many of the assumptions that we make about democracy sort of fray as soon as privacy disappears altogether. And that this is something I think would be interesting to discuss. Let's look at projects. Okay, here's Brian's. Now, I appreciate the fact that you came back and did a revision on this. In the past, in fact, I've been saying that, okay, here's credit for this, but please revise it, bring it up, polish it, so that in fact you can have it in your portfolio to use at some future date if you want. But I haven't seen a lot of those coming back. And what concerns me there is simply, have you really been assimilating the material that we've covered when going through and finding the flaws and finding the problems in these? And so that's why I asked you please to look at them again. And there's certain problems that do keep on arising. This is the one you did before your revision. So let's just take a quick look. Things like fulfilled of. Let's look at that in context here if we can find it. Yeah, here we have. Conflicts negatively. Here, of course, we're saying something conflicts negatively, but we're not sure what it conflicts with. There are conflicts perhaps within the document itself or within the teaching itself, often causing one's mind to be fulfilled of anxiety. That doesn't work. That collocation just doesn't convey something. Filled with makes it very simple. Now, when you're using a phrase as an adjective, as you are here, the survivest of the fittest mentality, the way to make sure that this is regarded as a single adjective is to hyphenate the whole thing.
Okay.
And then it works. I'm not sure what you meant by differentiated.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a typo. I don't remember really putting that in there.
Okay. And then we have a fragment here. Now, this starts out as though it were real sentences. For some, like myself, have actually, then suddenly you have to realize that, oh no, this isn't for some, this is the case. But we're saying for some have actually, that makes the for something totally different. It makes it into a because.
Yeah.
And if you start anything with a because, you've got a fragment. You can say, he came into the room. That's a sentence. Yeah. Because he came into the room, that's a fragment.
Yeah.
So that's what causes the fragment here. And then you use the word algorithm. But we're talking about youth in efforts to solve. In the efforts to solve. You said in the efforts of trying. That of trying just didn't work. In the efforts to solve this particular algorithm, you don't solve an algorithm. An algorithm is a series of steps that take one to a solution. And so you solve a problem, you solve a puzzle, you solve a conundrum. And I saw that you used the conundrum in your, which is sort of just a nice word for it, and certainly one that will raise you on the lexile levels. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, niche is not a word. Rhymes with snitch, I gather. But niche or niche is the way it's usually spelled. Or something that specific individual. You're using the word one earlier, so stay with it. Don't switch subjects.
And the only reason I switched from the two is because I thought I was overusing one.
Right.
But
you can't avoid it sometimes.
No, yeah, but you just kind of have to just go.
Right, and in many cases, you can just avoid using anything altogether. If you can use the word one and then somehow have it apply to the entire
exactly.
entire paragraph. And then in some cases, we have missing anaphoric references here. This one has no antecedent that I can find anywhere. Okay, please stay in one tense. Generally, it's past tense if you're recalling things that have taken place in the past. It can be present tense if you're explaining how to build a birdhouse. This part goes with this part. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen very often. With a few odd exceptions. Anybody ever read any of the works of Damon Runyon?
Don't believe so.
I just recently saw the musical that was made out of his works. It's called Guys and Dolls, came out in the 50s. But that's what came to mind. He wrote his narratives in present tense. And it was very odd sounding, but that was sort of his
style of writing.
His style, yeah.
That's cool.
Okay. My one thought on this is I'd like to see really a little more arc and a little more closure, so one knows exactly where you're going with it. But you use some wonderful little phrases in here that I enjoyed, and certainly I liked the
revision
dollop
flows a lot.
of déjà vu. Avoid mismatches, avoid run-ons, and use collocations that work. Any questions on this? Okay. Next one, Nicholas. Note closely some of the problems below and resubmit for extra credit. Past and present tense are mixed together here, the same problem. Past tense would be more appropriate. Please examine verb let's examine verb conjugation. Fall, slay, and thrive. Yeah, verbs are fascinating things, and I enjoy playing with irregular verbs. And you used some wonderful irregular verbs. So let's make sure that we figure out how they're used.
On the slay, slain, I put slain because slain is past tense.
No, slain is the perfect tense.
What?
He has slain him. He slew him yesterday,
Wow.
but he has slain 6 of them. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's look at the principal parts of the verb. We've got the present tense, which is to slay. Past tense is slew. And then the perfect tense is had slain. We'd have the word have in there. Okay, and those are the 3 principal parts that we need to use. So let's look at the principal parts of the word, the verb fall. What is the past tense of fall?
Fell.
What is the perfect tense?
Falling.
Fallen. Exactly. Now it's important here to understand that past tense of fall happens itself to be another verb. You fell a tree. What's the past tense of fell? It's regular. Yesterday I felled the tree. I have felled 4 trees. So that one's regular. Now it's odd that there are multiple verbs that work this way. I've got a chapter in the book on it. Another one is, one of the big ones that causes people so much trouble is lie. What is the past tense of lie?
Lay.
Right. What is the perfect tense of lie?
Lie. Wait.
Laid.
Lying. Then.
It's irregular. Today I lie, yesterday I lay, and I have usually lain down in the afternoon. It's lain. Okay, so we've got lie, lay, lain. Notice that the past tense of lie, lay, is also a verb on its own. Just like the past tense of fall, fell, is a verb of its own. So the past tense of lie is lay, and lay is a verb. Lie is intransitive. You lie down, but you don't lie something down, you lay something down. That's where the lay comes from. So when you're lying down or you're lying upon the couch, it's all lie. But if you have a pencil, you lay it down. What's the past tense there?
I lay down my pencil.
Yeah,
That's
No, I lay it down
present.
is present tense, yes.
yeah. I've lain.
Nope.
Wait.
You're getting two verbs mixed up. Everybody does. No,
Lay.
the past tense there, it's regular. Well, sort of regular. The spelling doesn't indicate it. But past tense is I laid the pencil on the table. I have laid the pencil on the table. Nice and regular. But I lie down today. Yesterday I lay down and I have lain down. Now get those right and you will be in the top 4 percentile, I think, of English speakers.
Can you post something on all that?
I don't need to. It's in your textbook.
Oh, good. Where?
It really is. I don't have the whole textbook
Wait,
up
who
on.
wants to be in the top 4%? How do I do?
Okay. Try the index. Look up lie. Okay, and so we're going to look at some of this as we go through. Why don't you give it to somebody else so that when we go through this, you can see what we're doing up there. Yeah, right. Okay. So we're talking about the Praetorian Guards. This was fascinating. I didn't really know much about them.
I've been wanting to write about this for a while. I'm so fascinated with the whole Roman government.
Uh-huh. It's important, however, when you this of course applies to anything you study, but it's important when you're looking at something like Rome to realize that what we know about Rome was written by Romans to make the Romans look good. And so we have to stand back a little bit and see if we can find alternative sources, of which there aren't a lot, to get the alternative opinions on it.
I don't think the Romans killing their own leaders makes them look good.
No, probably doesn't. They did a lot of other egregious things at various different times.
Yeah.
But the fact is,
They also fought against themselves.
they fought against
That was
themselves.
why they
They
disbanded.
enslaved a lot of peoples. They conquered a lot of peoples. And they wrote about their conquests as if they were providing a superior culture. But if you look at many of the conquered peoples, you discover they really had a superior culture. Theirs may well have been superior to that of Rome, but of course the Romans were the ones who wrote history.
And yeah, and also oftentimes when the Romans would write about battles, they would usually over exaggerate how many their enemies had and how few they had and how few casualties they would have and how they would kill tens of thousands of the enemy and how they would only lose like a few hundred.
Right. Skew the figures.
Ridiculous.
We still do that. Okay, so this is nice. 1,000 men fulfilled the needs of Rome. Word of fulfilling doesn't work.
Yeah, see, there's space. Something happened when I was editing it.
Okay.
Where I think a word got deleted.
The emperors must be appealing. Now here we get another. We're having fun with verbs.
Yeah.
Must is what kind of a verb?
Must.
Anybody know? Did you
Yeah, I
find it?
did not.
What's that?
I did not actually.
Oh, okay. We'll have to look up must here at some point too. But must is here, lie and lay, commonly confused verbs, 64. Must is a modal verb. And must is one of the modal verbs that doesn't have a past tense. What's the past tense of must? Yesterday he musted. No. He meased? No. It doesn't exist. Now, the thing is, some of the modal verbs actually do have a past tense, but that past tense has become a separate verb and has gained a new meaning. This is odd. Think about may. What is the past tense of may?
May is in may I please.
At may I please, yes.
Mace. Well, Mace.
No, that's the negation. It turns out that the past tense of may is might.
That's what I
But
was
might,
thinking.
Oh, yeah.
might
yeah,
has
sure.
acquired a different meaning altogether.
Mhm.
Originally, it was past tense of may. The same is true of can and could. Those can still be, you can still see where that's the past tense.
Mhm.
But must, in order to put must into the past tense, which is what I wanted to do, we have to relinquish it altogether because it doesn't have one. And so it had to appeal. That's the only way we can say, we convey the concept of must into past tense. Okay, now you were consistently spelling cavalry, which I can understand. They're very close to each other. But what is the difference between those two words?
I don't know. I went through my autocorrect and it just kept saying capitalize it, and so I did.
Well, that's because you kept typing it Calvary, and Calvary is the name of a hill. What's the hill? It actually means hill originally.
Calvary Hill, wasn't that one of the battles that took place during the Civil War? No,
It's the hill upon which Jesus was crucified,
That's right. That's right.
outside of Jerusalem. Okay, so that's sort of a different thing than we're talking about cavalry. Cavalry comes from the French for horse, and it means a mounted regiment or a mounted body, the cavalry. So we just have to get our L's and our B's straightened out. And then here, I put it in past tense by putting the would in there. Let's see. Oh yes, this one bothered me a little bit here. We've got thrived. Praetorian Guard thrived. You look it up in the dictionary, thrived is perfectly acceptable, but this is one of the verbs that has both a regular and an irregular form. And so I like the irregular one. The Praetorian Guards throve. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that is. It is.
You don't
Sounds
have to
better.
because it's, and
Correct
a number of
either
other verbs like that work. For example, learn. What's the past tense of learn? Well, it's
Learned.
learned, ed,
Yeah.
or it's learnt with a T,
Learned, yeah, learned.
which is the irregular form, which I prefer. And people look at my writing and say, I don't. But you look it up in the dictionary,
Mhm,
it's
then
a
that's-
perfectly valid alternative. Okay, emperors have fell victim. That has to hurt when you hear that. Have fell victim. It's like
Has had fell. What about had? Had fell.
Well,
fallen. Yes. This is common American usage. It's, for example, I hear this fairly consistently said, yesterday I had went, that sort of thing. It's gone. I had fallen. That perfect tense tends to degenerate, and the simple past tends to take over. And it's happened in a number of cases. Okay, I've made this simple past instead of have slain is perfectly correct, but it's perfect tense, and I thought past tense was appropriate there. It's perfect tense. When is perfect tense and when is past tense used? It's depends. Perfect tense tends to be used when you're still in the middle of doing something. I have slain 4, and I'm still at it and will slay more. But I slew 4 means I'm pretty much done.
Mhm.
You see what I mean? There's a difference in semantics there.
That's
Okay, and then you introduce us to some fascinating things. 1,000 men was not really a massive force. Rome had much larger armies. We've got some more cavalry. Any questions about this? Do you understand what the problems were?
yes. And if it's not on the book, then would you post something?
It's right here. Okay, language notes, lie and lay. This is on page 64 if anybody's got their books with you. Commonly confused verb pairs, lie and lay. Even native speakers of English have trouble distinguishing. Okay, a transitive verb takes an object. Lay is a transitive verb. I lay the offensive souffle before the embittered in-laws. I don't like simple examples. Interesting examples is what one wants. The verb lay acts directly upon a person or thing. In this case, the souffle, which is the object of the verb. By contrast, the verb lie is intransitive. It takes no object and indicates the state of its subject. The souffle lies before the embittered in-laws. The souffle is the subject of the verb lie and gives its state. English has several pairs of verbs that act this way, and here are charts of lie and lay, fell and fall, raise and rise, hang and hang, and there's another one that I failed to include here, and I can't remember what it was. But these all work the same way. You have the irregular verb is intransitive. The regular verb is transitive. And in a couple of cases, the regular verb happens to be this, have a root that's the same as the past tense of the irregular verb. And that's the case with fall and fell. I felled the tree. And lie and lay, I lay the pencil on the table. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and on page 67,
Okay.
do the lie lay play sheet here and check the answers. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now we do have other things that have been handed in here. We have Napoleon, and I'm just concerned if Azariah is listening in, perhaps I should go ahead and look at that.
He hasn't been here the past.
Maybe see if there's a live viewer watching.
I was wondering if we can do that.
Yes.
Let's see if that's the case.
0 viewers.
0 viewers. Okay. In that case, I'm not going to go ahead and do that. I did get a message saying that they were coming in, but then it didn't happen. So. Okay, let's see where we stand. We have plenty of time. We have 20 minutes or so. There are so many things we could do here. We could discuss. We have so many interesting things to discuss. We could experiment a little bit with Sci-Hub. This Brian thought would be a nice thing to play around with. I haven't done a great deal of experimentation with it, except to note that it's slow. And I'm not sure it's the best use of our time, but we can set it off on a search while we go and do something else if we'd like.
Yeah.
Yes.
What shall we consider here?
Black holes, time travel.
Time travel.
Yeah.
I'd like that. Okay. Why don't we look for time travel and perpetual motion, shall we? Let's see what we've got here.
I wonder how they got access to all these research papers.
Okay, that is known. There are a number of institutions that subscribe and have unlimited access. And one of those is Massachusetts Institute of Technology. One of the previous activists who tried to get this database and put it out for free was named Aaron Schwartz. Interesting fellow. I feel now like giving you a little background on Aaron Schwartz, or even a video or something. He was a homeschooler in the sense that he went to school, he thought it was stupid and dropped out, realizing he could learn faster himself. And he taught himself, learned how to learn on his own. he is responsible for a number of the developments in the computer world, including just a second. I think Reddit. He was on the Reddit team that founded Reddit, and also the RSS feeds he developed. And he did a lot of other things. It's fascinating to watch. I remember seeing him participating in panels. I'm not sure exactly what the panel was discussing, but you had a number of major figures in the field on the panel. And then there was Aaron Schwartz, who was 12 years old at the time, who was in there doing things with all the rest of them. Fascinating fellow. He managed to put together a system for gutting this database by setting up a computer. Oh, here we have. It takes a while after you do the search. Yeah. By setting up a computer in a closet in MIT somewhere that simply systematically went through the entire database and downloaded it onto hard disks, and he went in and swapped the hard disks. That was one way that it was done. However, he was caught and charged with all kinds of things and was likely to go to prison, had not yet gone to court, and he committed suicide. This one here is put together by, I can't remember her name. She's an academic in Chechnya, I believe, and it's hosted on the dark web, and although it's been declared, there's a court ruling has ruled against it. There's nothing much the court ruling can do about it.
So Sci-Hub is based out of the dark web?
It is, but there's a gateway through, and that's what I gave you the link. It's also available through Tor. Okay, I have no idea what we're going to find here. It's a little disconcerting to find that all of the instructions here are in Russian. Right. But you can usually figure that out. And I'm sure you folks have done it. I don't think I've done it on this machine, but let's just try.
Google Translate?
Yeah, if I do, I don't think I have Google Translate up. Yes, I do. Let's do the Google Translate here.
You have to do one by one.
I got some English mixed in with it. That was the trouble.
You know, on Google Chrome,
I'm sorry?
On Google Chrome, there's a feature where you go to a new website and it's in a different language. It asks if you want to translate it to English.
I don't doubt it. I'm afraid I don't use Chrome very often.
Firefox could have the same feature.
I'm just trying to figure out. Well, these are just names of URLs. But look, where is the Russian? Okay, we've got viewport. I'm not sure what that means. Very often, if you just know the alphabet, which is not hard to learn, you can find that a lot of those words are simply transliterated from names or something that you'll recognize if you sound them out. Choose a date. Okay, so that's nice and straightforward. That time you could have guessed at that. Okay, correlation of time travel on roads versus straight line distance. Okay, well, that's not really time travel. It's the travel time. Travel time, yeah. The paradoxes of time travel. That's a nice idea. That's from quite some time ago.
Yeah.
JSTOR is the big database that And most of this has come from 76. That would be somewhat dated. That would
Yeah.
go back a ways. This one here, Evolution of Foresight. What is mental time travel, and is it unique to humans? Is it 2007, Cambridge University Press. Let's just take a look at that one, shall we? Okay, there has got to be a way to tell it to do its instructions in English, I expect, but it's easy enough to work around it. Okay, here we have opened up a PDF viewer, and so we should be able to just say file save as, and you'll be able to save the entire PDF on your local machine. Whereas this would cost $30 if you went through the normal channels. Okay, and here we will always start. Well, in this case, it starts with an introduction. Let's see if it's got the abstract up above there. There's the abstract. Oh, got all these things in the way. It's a little tricky. Okay, in the dynamic world, mechanisms allowing prediction of future situations can provide a selective advantage. We suggest that memory systems differ in the degree of flexibility they offer for anticipatory behavior, and put forward a corresponding taxonomy of prospection. The prospection, interesting word. There's so many words for that in English. Augury, vaticination, the prophecy. Okay, the adaptive advantage of any memory system can only lie in what it contributes for future survival. The most flexible is episodic memory, which we suggest is part of a more general faculty of mental time travel that allows us not only to go back in time, but also to foresee, plan, and shape virtually any specific future event. Nicely written. This is good. Not all papers are nicely written. Let's grab this. I'd like to just get the paragraph itself. No, I can't do that. Let's grab the whole abstract. It's so hard.
There you go.
There.
We'll
I'll
have to-
just add the S.
On this.
Okay, now let's go and see what the lexile level of this thing is.
I'm guessing 7th grade.
No, I think it's going to be in the
I'd say like 10 or something.
in the college level.
Something.
I don't really notice a lot of the words.
Where did I put it?
Still the right more, I believe.
No. Well, maybe I have to open it again. Okay, here's where I went to it the first time. Okay, 1405. It's not that high. This would be third level college. Third year of college, junior year, age 19. No, what? 19 could also mean sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting to do that. Now, another thing that I noticed when we were reading this, where is it? He uses that unusual word there, prospection. And let's just take prospection and grab that and run it through the Google. And where did I put it?
That was it. You just have to go back.
There it is. Okay, and let's just try that one out. So instead of swinge, we will. Prospection. Interesting. Very recent. Between 1915,
Yeah.
second half there.
Gold rush.
Although it goes back, first examples of it appear to have developed somewhere around the time of the American Revolution. And prospection, interesting. Okay, play with these tools. See what you can learn from them. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is, do we want to consider another Shakespeare play? That's a possibility. I mean, it's not necessary. There are other things one could read. Lots of other things one could read. But it's one that's sort of expected, in the sense that the main canon of Shakespeare is something we should all have encountered. I don't mean necessarily Timon of Athens or Pericles. I mean, there are a lot of obscure ones there, which almost nobody's ever seen. Any thoughts on that?
Like, does it have to be a reading assignment, or could it be any assignment?
Any assignment. Indeed, when we're talking about Shakespeare, I don't regard that as a reading assignment. Shakespeare, and indeed any drama, is intended to be seen and heard.
Because I was planning to look at the Snowden thing and then write on one of the debate topics, as well as correct some of my old papers.
Okay.
Speaking of which, have you uploaded our old papers that were on the old classroom to this new classroom? Or were those ever transferred?
I don't believe I was able to do so. I hope you, I
Yeah, I
believe
still
I said something
mostly
about
everything.
make sure you have them
Yeah.
somewhere.
I still have them.
I may have them, or actually all of you may have them in your old email, because
That's true.
if you subscribe to the forum, you should go.
But yeah, maybe we can, maybe not specifically Shakespeare, maybe
Okay.
something, I don't know. It really depends what everybody wants, because
Indeed, I made some suggestions. I'm up for other ideas. The standard. Let's take a look in our classroom somewhere here. I don't remember where. I have the list of junior and senior reading list recommended by the Common Core, which I don't take objection to. I mean, there's nothing in there that's bad. I think some of it's a bit of a waste of time, and much of it doesn't go far enough. They give you a little bit snippets of things when they could give you the whole thing. One that that comes to my mind is when we look at the American Revolution. Some of this came up in some papers earlier. Napoleon, for example, which we haven't covered in there, but the question is, of course, when we're talking about the revolutionary period, there were a lot of revolutions, and the French had a whole bunch of them going on. But when we talk about the American Revolution, that's a different one, which were confused in that paper somewhat. But the American Revolution is to us really a rather important thing to understand, and perhaps to understand in a little greater depth than one normally covers it. And I think that the Declaration of Independence is a brilliantly written thing, which would be nice to look at. But one has to understand also that the Declaration of Independence was highly influenced. What by?
By Voltaire.
There is Voltaire in there, but there is a more recent, closer influence. Thomas Paine. Now, much of the material that went into that was drawn very closely from the writings of Thomas Paine, which themselves are to a large extent responsible for the revolution itself. He was a pamphleteer. He wrote Common Sense, in which he exhorted everyone to consider the possibility of a revolution and the possibility that it might succeed. And without those pamphlets, certainly it would never have gone forward. And many of the concepts incorporated into those pamphlets were put into the Declaration of Independence. Some things, unfortunately, were omitted, one of which was the abolition of slavery. Couldn't get that one through the southern states, and so it got taken out, but indeed it was in the original. So would anybody be interested in Thomas Paine?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, let me dig up. I'll try to find both some, all of his writings, which you may choose, and also some lectures on the subject. I know that Hitchens wrote a book on it. I've read it. It's a fascinating one, and so that's a beautifully written commentary on Paine. There are other works, many other works that I'm not expert on. I'm perfectly willing to read things I haven't read before. If you really want to jump into something like Great Gatsby or Moby Dick or something like that, those are standard things that everyone's sort of supposed to know something about. I think it's a good idea to know something about it, but in many cases, I think you're actually going to use your time to best advantage by reading the Wikipedia rather than reading the original works. So
yeah, we'll just
always
assign
worth
some
doing.
stuff and we'll see what's.
Okay, so you've got some new things here. You've got the discussion between these three great orators here. And let's add that one in, and then I'll give you some Thomas Paine. And if there's something that you would like to do, that's high priority. I would really like to find things that are of interest to you. I should like to plow forward with. Have you got enough homework?
Yes.
We should. This week,
Okay.
maybe add a few more just miscellaneous threads.
As
just
things
to,
pop up, I will add
tickle our
them.
brain.
But I
Yes.
invite you also to submit things if you have any ideas, okay? Okay. Have a wonderful one.
Could have been bad.
Get a pocket with a button on it.
Pockets are deep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good week. Okay, class is coming to an end.